As the events in Israel unfold this week, I'm grateful to a fellow congregant who sent me an image of a plaque at a Savannah, Georgia cemetery in honor of Archibald Bullock. In April 1776, Mr. Bullock became the first president and commander-in-chief of Georgia, an office that he ably filled until his untimely death during the latter part of February 1777. The quote attributed to him atop the plaque is, "This is no time to talk of moderation. In the present instance, it ceases to be a virtue." There are times as a part of the Jewish people, as a member of the Jewish family, as part of the great Kehillah of congregations of Israel. There's a time to raise our language of love and loyalty to our family whose children are on the front lines defending our homeland, for our right to be in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, and to condemn murder and terrorism and rockets aimed by terrorists at the civilian population of Israel, Jews, Arabs, Druze, Christians, Muslims, and fellow citizens of Israel. There is a time that moderation in condemnation is not only moral complacency, but complicity. Those who point towards cycles of violence in the past and how they led to these moments aid and abet terrorists who target innocent children and life all over the land of Israel and Jewish life around the world. It is not a time for moderation or capitulation or equivocation. It is a time to stand firmly and strong in our condemnation of terrorist murderers who threaten the very, very peace with ultimatums and let alone 1,000+ rockets flown at the land of Israel over its entire population and even kill their own children in the process with misguided missiles and setting launchers in their own civilian populations. It is a time when moderation must not inform our love and outreach and connections with the Jewish people in the great drama of history, in our feeling our roots vibrating and being nourished by the power to become unified and one, knowing that God is on our side, Torah is our guide, and we must buckle in for the ride. Now is a time to raise the love language. Like Rashi taught us in the first verse or the verses of Parshat Bamidbar, this week's Torah portion. As we begin the 4th book of Torah, Rashi says about the verse, "Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai ba'ohel moed be'echad lechodesh hasheni b'shana hasheni l'tzeitam me'eretz Mitzrayim lemor," that on the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year following the exodus from the land of Egypt, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, "Take a census. Make sure you know where every member of your family is. Make sure that I know where they are. Reach out and be sure to say to each of them, you are an important part of this family. I am with you. Rashi explains that mitoch chibatan lefanav moneotam. Because of the great love and loyalty God feels to the Jewish people, God said, count the Jewish people, take a census, and gave us such a command to account for each and every soul and to have them in mind and in heart when we think about our connection to the Jewish people. It was my privilege this week, in the midst of the mayhem in Israel, to reach out to congregants whose children are in Israel, to talk to those children serving in the Israeli Defense Forces from our congregation, to connect with friends from Camp Ramah who are part of the Israeli Shlichut, the group of Israelis who come to America to add their spirit to our community. It was my privilege to reconnect with colleagues and friends who are mourning the loss of life, one who lives not 50 feet from a house destroyed by a terrorist missile and a 90-plus-year-old woman murdered in Ashkelon. To say, we are with you, unequivocally. We are with you without moderation, saying it with the power of the language of love, that we are taking into account each and every one of our family, extended family, relatives and friends, cousins, brothers and sisters, existentially, who are in the land of Israel. We learn from our Torah how to guide our lives. We learn from our Torah about the attitudes we must hold and have and the outlooks that we can develop as fellow Jews, arevim ze leze, responsible for each other. And so we lift our voices in hope and in prayer that peace will reign. So we lift our voices and remember each and every one of those precious souls who should not have to live in fear, who are out on the front lines defending our homeland, who are responding to all the medical needs, and who are holding our people with hope. Small measures of redemption would come in the wilderness for the Jewish people with the deliverance of manna. Food enough for a day. And so today, we sense that small measures of redemption either satisfy hungers or quench a little thirst, provide a little bit of that nourishment and hope that are necessary to get through these hard and painful times. To add to that, our community, our congregation, Jews in diaspora lands, could raise their voices and let our family in Israel know that we are with them, that we pray for calm and we hope for peace, that we are with them as their sons and daughters are on the front lines and medics race to get to those who need treatment. We are with them through our prayer, through the power of our hope, and through our righteous acts and giving tzedakah. And should you wish to contribute to emergency relief funds for our people and our nation, please direct them towards my discretionary fund, and I will be sure that they get to Eretz Yisrael, to the families in need in Israel, and all those who will have to rebuild after these terrible days. Now is a time for strong languages of love and loyalty to rise. This is no time to talk of moderation. In the present instance, it ceases to be a virtue. I pray that all Israel knows that they can count on us, and we count each and every soul there as precious to us, all Israel, and all the world. Shabbat Shalom.